Imagine a time, 200 years ago, in the lush, rolling hills of southern Africa. This land, rich with life, was home to dozens of Nguni-speaking clans, small groups living in a delicate balance. But this balance was about to be shattered by one of history's most formidable military minds. This is the story of the rise of the Zulu kingdom and its legendary king, Shaka. Our story begins not with a king, but with an outcast. Shaka was born around 1787, the illegitimate son of Senzongakona, the chief of a small clan called the Zulu, and a woman named Nandi from a neighboring clan. Their union was not recognized, and from his earliest days, Shaka and his mother faced scorn and humiliation. They were eventually exiled, forced to wander from clan to clan, seeking refuge. This early life of hardship didn't break Shaka, it forged him. He grew up strong, intelligent, and filled with a burning ambition to prove his worth. As a young man, Shaka found a home with the powerful Mthethwa paramountcy, led by a visionary chief named Dingiswayo. It was here, under Dingiswayo's mentorship, that Shaka's military genius began to shine. He wasn't just a warrior, he was an innovator. At the time, warfare was highly ritualized. Warriors would stand at a distance, hurling long, flimsy throwing spears called assegais at each other. Fights were often more about posturing than actual combat, with few casualties. Shaka saw this as inefficient and weak. He revolutionized everything. First, he redesigned the primary weapon. He shortened the long, clumsy throwing spear into a deadly, short stabbing spear with a broad, heavy blade. He called it the Iklewa, supposedly named after the sound it made when being pulled from a human body. This wasn't a weapon to be thrown away, it was for close, brutal, hand-to-hand combat. To use it effectively, warriors needed a new kind of shield. Shaka introduced a large, tough cowhide shield that could be used to hook the enemy's shield, pulling it aside to create an opening for a fatal thrust with the Iklewa. But weapons were only part of the equation. Shaka knew that strategy and discipline were the keys to victory. He developed a revolutionary tactical formation known as the Buffalo Horns, or Imbuto. The army was divided into three parts. The strongest, most experienced warriors formed the chest, the main central force that would clash directly with the enemy. On either side were the horns, younger, faster warriors who would encircle the enemy, flanking them from both sides and preventing any escape. Finally, a reserve force, the loins, was kept behind the main body, ready to be deployed wherever needed or to pursue fleeing enemies. It was a simple yet devastatingly effective formation that no one had ever seen before. Shaka also imposed iron discipline on his soldiers, or amabutho. He forced them to march barefoot for miles over thorny ground to toughen their feet. He organized them into regiments based on age, fostering a powerful sense of brotherhood and competition. He drilled them relentlessly, turning them from a loose collection of clansmen into a single, cohesive, professional fighting machine. This wasn't just an army, it was a society built for war. Every man in the kingdom was a soldier, and their loyalty was to him, and him alone. When Shaka's father, Senzongakona, died in 1816, Shaka, with the backing of his mentor Dingiswayo and his disciplined warriors, seized the Zulu chieftainship. He was no longer an outcast, he was a king, but his ambition didn't stop there. He began a ruthless campaign of conquest and consolidation. Clan after clan was either absorbed into his growing kingdom or utterly destroyed. He used his buffalo horns formation with terrifying efficiency, overwhelming his opponents who were still using outdated, ritualistic tactics. This period of intense warfare and mass migration is known as the Mafeking, or the Crushing. It was a time of immense upheaval across southern Africa. As Shaka's Zulu army expanded, it created a domino effect. Defeated tribes fled, crashing into other groups, who in turn were displaced, creating waves of violence and chaos that reshaped the entire political map of the region. New states and new kingdoms were forged from the ashes of the old ones, all in response to the pressure exerted by the Zulu war machine. Under Shaka, the Zulu transformed from a minor clan of a few hundred people into a vast, centralized kingdom of over 250,000, with an army of 40,000 disciplined warriors at its command. He built military kraals, or settlements, across the land, establishing a network of control and communication. He broke the power of the old clan chiefs, replacing their authority with his own absolute rule. Social life, politics, and the economy all revolved around the military. He created a new, unified Zulu identity, where loyalty to the king and the nation surpassed any old clan allegiances. However, Shaka's reign was as brutal as it was brilliant. He ruled through fear, often ordering mass executions for the slightest infractions. His paranoia grew over the years, and his methods became increasingly tyrannical. The turning point came in 1827 with the death of his mother, Nandi. Grief-stricken and perhaps mentally unhinged, Shaka plunged the kingdom into a period of forced mourning that spiraled into madness. He ordered that no crops be planted, no milk be used, and that any woman who became pregnant be executed along with her husband. Thousands of people were killed for not showing enough grief. This final act of tyranny was too much for his people to bear. His reign of terror had made him powerful, but it had also made him enemies, even within his own family. In 1828, while his army was away on a campaign, Shaka was assassinated by his own half-brothers, Dingan and Mingana. They saw him as a despot who was destroying the very kingdom he had built. Shaka's reign lasted only 12 years, but his impact was immeasurable. He was a military visionary, a nation builder, and a ruthless tyrant. He took a collection of scattered clans and forged them into one of the most powerful indigenous empires Africa has ever known. The Zulu kingdom he created would go on to challenge even the might of the British Empire decades later. The story of Shaka is a powerful, complex, and often brutal tale of how one man's will, forged in the fires of exile, reshaped a continent. His legacy, like the Ikawa he designed, is sharp, bloody, and unforgettable. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this dive into history fascinating, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next story. See you next time.